All right. All right, Grace. Here we go. Three, two, and one. Welcome or welcome back, everyone, to another exciting episode of Aaron's Opinion, the podcast for blind people, where we speak about critical issues in the blindness community and all other issues from across the universe and galaxy. Speaking of across the universe and galaxy, let's go down under the universe and galaxy and go talk to Grace King. She joins us from a very early morning over there in Australia. G'day for one thing, and very pleased just thank you so much for getting up so early. So we'll just dive in head first, and I'm sure you're fresh and ready to talk about number one. Who is Grace King? I understand that you have had quite a life and quite a spiritual journey. Even though that you now have, now that you speak English with an Australian accent, now you're actually an American person who grew up in the States and emigrated to Australia. So that's part of your story. And then you do a lot of things with spirituality and healing and that type of thing. And then you do podcasting. So I think you have a lot to share. So why don't I mute my microphone and you can tell us who is Grace King? Dig into it.
Hello. Apologies. It is 7:30 in the morning and I'm not long up. So if what I say makes less sense than normal, well, maybe that's why, or maybe it's just me. But anyway, I am Grace King, originally from Wisconsin, the land of beer, snow, and cheese. Now from Perth, Western Australia, have been here since 2009. And I've done many things in life. I am a singer, actor, um, performer, and advocate for audio described theater and basically anything audio described, and also an advocate for uh, disabled artists and getting more of that on screen. So I've done a bit of that. I came over here to be on a working holiday visa to volunteer to help blind and vision impaired people build and maintain computers, and did that for a while, and then decided that, uh, I'd stay, got married, decided I probably needed to actually get some money, so worked at a help desk for a major internet service provider, managed a team for a little while, was a senior customer service representative for a little while. Um, and yeah, now I am in work life, an assistive technology administrator, helping other blind people and people with other disabilities with their technology while at work. I believe that technology can allow us as blind people to do just about anything and will allow us to do even more. It's not a bad thing. It's a thing to mostly be embraced. But that is a little bit of a biography of me on that side. We're here to talk about spirituality. So when I was young, I was into all things spiritual. My family was told that we were the descendants of a mother Shipton, who it says didn't have children, but she must have. Um, grandma, great great grandma did have the last name Shipton. And so we always we we grew up believing that we were magical. We would take the little crystals off the crystal chandelier in the dining room, and they'd be magical crystals, and we'd collect all sorts of little things. I taught my sisters a way of meditating and journeying through probably what would now be called ecstatic dance, but was like some 5 or 6 or 8 year olds um, just having a good time listening to music. Went to a camp, learned a little bit of uh, hypnosis and trance, and could actually do it better than the people that taught me. So brought that back to school and taught a bunch of people. They're like, whoa. So that was fun. Uh, and in school, I went to a blind school in year 11 and 12, and I had a little group of people learning spirituality. There were some events in life that really put that to the side. Uh, I did an internship with NASA and the National Federation of the Blind, which didn't go real well. Not getting into it doesn't matter. I've been lucky enough to have some great people come into my life and great experiences that have helped me heal through that. And I'm much better and much more integrated after those experiences. But I think that some of the experiences I had there and some of the other experiences I've had in my life have led me to understand that in our community, there's a lot of trauma and there's a lot of judgment that we as blind people subject others to and subject ourselves to. I think that a lot of us, maybe on a subconscious level, and yeah, some of us maybe on a conscious level, feel like we need to be this perfect blind person because if we aren't this perfect blind person, we will never get a job. We will never have friends. We will never be accepted in the either the blind or the sighted community. And we'll let our whole community down because we'll not be shown to be this perfect blind person. And as I've gone through life, I have found that that isn't true. You don't have to be perfect. You can be you. And you, look, you will be as long as you're not harming anybody and are a generally good person accepted by the community at large. Eventually, you'll find your niche, and everybody, blind or sighted, goes through this journey. We're not alone in the journey of trying to find our niche and find our space. So I have made it my mission. I've got two purposes. Firstly, to make sure to go through life being me, not being a perfect blind person. I'll go and use that instant kettle to pump water into my lovely cup of cacao that I've got next to me. I'll ask for help cutting my food. I'll get a hand reading that menu if I need to. When I was in school in Colorado, they didn't have audible tactile lights where I was. And you know what? Yep, I asked people to help me cross the street because it wasn't something I could do. I had a directional hearing issue. I couldn't tell which way cars were coming. Just something in my brain that didn't work. Um, and my second purpose, mission, is to provide resources to people that are blind to help them on their own spiritual journey and to help provide healing to those that want it and to those that find that they do have some of that trauma, some of that uh, judgment, and they want to be free of it and want to be the best versions of themselves that they can be. And there are many ways to do that, which I can talk about later. I do have one other purpose, and that was something that somebody said to me once in a messenger conversation. It was a coworker, and they said, "So, yeah, your purpose in life, Grace, is to be awesome and do awesome, amazing things." And I um, do that. There are things that I've done, and people wouldn't actually believe me. They'd be like, "You are full of it." But no, um, I have been in an opera at the His Majesty's Theatre. Um, I have run my own Fringe show, which is a big um, comedy and just different arts festival in Perth. I've immigrated all the way across the world from the United States. And I don't have any of my family from the United States here. I don't have any family uh, here at all, except my chosen family, my partner, and that. So yeah, I do try to live by that um, purpose as well.
Well, I got to tell you something. I think that what you just said there really will strike a chord with a lot of people around the family here at Aaron's Opinion and our audience. You're very right. I can relate to much of what you said, not all of it, but a lot of it. And the most relatable part of what you said is that it is our duty in life to be the very best imperfect version of us and to accept that. And I think that is such a great philosophy in life. If you're going to be perfect, then you aren't going anywhere. And that's my philosophy in life. If you want perfection, then you need to stop wanting because perfection will never come. And I think that's a very, very wise concept and a very wise way to live life. So that's very, very true. So when you mentioned that you do a lot of things, you've done a lot of acting, which I'm very interested in. I do some voice acting. You mentioned that you're really into audio, your audio description. You mentioned that you're really into theater, but so Grace, were you always, were you an actress in the States before you came to Australia? How did you become so enthralled and what was what really lit a fire under your ass to get into acting, you know?
Um, I think I just loved it. When a couple things happened, we had this church that always put on a Christmas pageant, and I found that so much fun. And they couldn't figure out, when I was old enough to have a part other than being a cute, pretty little angel that, walked down the aisle, uh, what they were actually going to do with me, because, well, um, couldn't see, couldn't easily move around the stage independently. It was like 1991. There was no learnings about teaching a blind person to move around a stage independently, especially a 6-year-old, right? That's okay. It is what it is. So they had me be the narrator of the story and half memorized, half read, because actually I could barely read. I could barely read really until I was in high school because I had um, Braille dyslexia, which got corrected when I was 8 years old. But I probably didn't catch up in actual Braille reading properly till like high school, I'd say. Never did catch up on being able to write properly. But that's okay. So yeah, I did that. A funny story about that. I'm like, oh, 7, 8 years old, and we're doing a Christmas pageant, and I've got this massive uh narrator part, huge thing, doing the whole Christmas pageant. And my mom and dad uh, come and they bring my two sisters, and I've got a 2-year-old little sister who's blind, and she doesn't know what a play is. She's like 2. So I'm talking, doing this narrator part, and my sister is responding back to me, thinking that I am talking to her. So everything I say, she has something to say about. And I'm like 8, and I'm so embarrassed. And I cried. But it's so funny. It was hilarious and probably the cutest thing ever. Um, but uh, as, as I got older, did a lot of school plays. The choir I was in did some acting and play stuff. And I tried to get involved in that. And sometimes it was successful, and sometimes they were afraid of me holding a lit candle, um, because I don't know what they thought it was going to happen, but they they weren't too keen on that. Uh, School, I had a great music teacher, mostly, who pointed out that I could actually sing, which I didn't realize. So I got into some singing and did try to do some acting through Opera for the Young through school. And it was not something that this music teacher would ever let me get into. It would always pick other people because you're blind and you can't really do that. Uh, but always gave me lots of good solos in our variety review shows and all of that, but definitely didn't very much discouraged most movement for me, which look was probably fine. And in high school, I got into forensics, and forensics was not what you think it is. It is not a bunch of dead bodies and policemen and all of that. Forensics in America is competitive public speaking and competitive acting, really competitive arts with speech in any way. So I got into interpretive prose and poetry. So what this is you got a book and you've got the whole prose and poetry in front of you, and you're doing interpretive reading. Now this is what fixed my issues with reading. Once I learned about the rhythm of how to read and how to speak while reading Braille, there was no looking back for me. Absolutely loved it. And when I give a speech that is not impromptu like this, I will actually write it all out and I will read it all. And the great thing about being able to read Braille is you can have your note taker sitting on the lectern, go ahead and read, or have it in front of you and hanging off of you and go ahead and read and still look at people in the face. I was presenting a program for the Perth Festival and I was reading it. And I didn't even think about the fact that my Braille sense this day, was hidden by the lectern that I was speaking in front of. And one of my uh, the people on the committee that I worked with said to me in a joking manner, well, look, those people probably, those people thought that you were much better than you are because they thought you memorized it. Nobody could see that you had your note taker underneath the lectern and were reading it. So that was really funny. And she did mean well by it. I know this woman and she's fabulous and meant no harm. But I was like, oh, that's really funny. Uh, so yeah, that's gotten me into acting. There's been a lot of ableism I have faced in acting. I went to uh, an audition to be a blind American, and uh, the person, well, basically it was community theater, and they'd already really picked one of their friends to do the part. But they're like, yeah, look, if you don't get the part, which you won't, because we don't actually want to authentically cast a blind person, would you coach somebody in how to be blind? And I'm like, oh, yeah, my rate's $50 an hour. Um, maybe if you pay me that, but I knew he wouldn't. Because yeah, they were just interested in getting free, you know, blind help and not authentically casting. Um, so yeah, that was a very, very unfortunate thing that happened. I think they had the person in the room as a quote minder so that, I possibly quote wouldn't get hurt, who they actually wanted to play the role so that they could watch me move around as a blind person. Um, so yeah, that was real special. But I've had some great, great experiences as well working with the West Australian Opera doing Yolanta. And Yolanta, if you don't know, is about a blind princess who does not know she is blind. And then a prince accidentally stumbles upon her in the garden and falls in love with her and realizes she's blind and tells her about sight. And then her dad comes with a doctor and wants her to, go through a process to restore her sight. But she must, within her heart of hearts, really, really want to see. And he says, look, if it doesn't work, we're just going to kill this prince. That's what we're going to do. So it's kind of yucky and really not doesn't have her um anything about her or what she wants or what she felt. So they did this lovely workshopping process with about 7 blind people to talk about it, and we changed the libretto a little bit by adding some monologues into the opera, which I read as the blind Yolanta, queen of 30 years old, because this opera happened when she was 16. Uh, and talking back about what happened. And in that moment where, there are 4 monologues, but the best, the last monologue is about the decision I made in being Yolanta and the doctor made so in secret in our version of the libretto. Yolanta stays blind, but she pretends that she can see so that she can get out of there with her prince. And she does tell Dad later, and he forgives her, and he comes to understand, why she might not want to see as a blind person who's always been blind their whole life. Me, completely opposite of Yolanta. Give me the tech, I'll have a play with some sight, but I don't really see it as a an emotional thing. I see it as another tech toy to play with. And I think if we emotionally detach and we, really work with the neuroplasticity of our brains, we might get some results from it. I don't know. But um it's not an emotional thing for me. It would just be another thing to play with.
It would be. It's very, very interesting. I forget if you told me. I don't think you did. So, were you born blind or born sighted, Grace?
I was born blind. I've been totally blind since birth. I have Leber's congenital amaurosis. No light perception, no, well, very little light perception, possibly. I had a toy rocket I was swinging in front of my face at a costume party on Saturday and could kind of see that. But yeah.
I see. I see. That tale that you recounted, where a company wouldn't hire you just because they wouldn't allow a blind person to portray a blind actor. Well, on one hand, I'm kind of, I'm really philosophically, I'm not sorry that they didn't hire you, only because a successful person like you knows that you shouldn't work for a company like that. You don't want to be cast in an organization that won't allow you to be you and portray a blind person naturally. So that's, what that really is a backhanded compliment, as frustrating as it is.
They weren't even going to hire me. Like this company was a community theater, which means that they don't hire anybody. It's literally you work for free. Actually, I think they wanted people to contribute $3 every rehearsal for them to hire the space. I don't even know that they are around
Right.
anymore. Don't know that
Right,
they're
right.
not, but
Well, right, but I mean, do you see what I'm saying? I mean, that's kind of the type of community you don't want to volunteer with people
oh
like
no.
that.
No,
I don't know if you got my point, but
I
if they
did.
wouldn't allow a blind person to portray a blind person, well, okay, quite frankly, okay, fine. That's worth walking away from, and that's what I've had to do in my own existence here is figure out what to walk away from and figure out what to walk towards. But the question is, how do you tell the difference?
Oh,
That's the question. Yeah.
that one's easy. You don't want anything to do with it. But in the same vein,
Hmm.
the show shouldn't even be put on. You shouldn't be doing
Well,
that. You shouldn't be doing inauthentic casting. You wouldn't do it
it's weird.
for an
That's just
Aboriginal
weird.
person in
That's
Australia
very strange.
anymore. You would not have a white person playing, an Aboriginal person. You shouldn't have, a non-disabled person, uh, quote,
That's
crip up,
weird. That's
as you say. So,
that's just very strange. It's just bizarre. Yeah. And
so
why did they
yeah.
put it on in the first place? Just to make a couple bucks, some community? What, like,
Uh,
why would they do that?
uh, literally, the community theater is here in Australia and I think in America, just people that really like to put on plays. And this guy really liked this play and wanted to, you know, run it to put it on. So yeah, that's what
Right.
he. I don't even know if it actually went ahead. It may have.
Well,
I never saw any more advertisements for it, so God knows if it actually happened.
well, anyway, moving forward from that moment. So let's break down. So what can you tell me about your experience in the opera? That's very interesting, and a lot of blind people would be interested in that. So yeah, tell me about that.
That was amazing. That was so like one of the coolest things. So they you know, I'm just really trying to think where to start. So we had an audition um process and
Hmm.
I won the part. I think I might have been the only one that auditioned. There was supposed to be someone else, but I she was very sick and never did audition. Uh
Has anyone told
but
you that you could also do stand-up comedy? Do you
yes,
stand?
people have said that. I
Because you
don't do
definitely
stand-up comedy.
you have that comedian, you have that like dry comical delivery. Like there's something really serious about your delivery and really sweet and like endearing, but then you have this like rough, rustic, kind of lovable, relatable side that's like hysterically funny. Yeah, definitely.
Well, thank
Yeah.
you. So, yeah, I got this part. I got the monologues. We had about in like community theater and regular theater, you've got way more lead time than you do with the opera. The opera, we had 3 weeks of rehearsal because in opera, everybody learns their part beforehand and does all that because they can read music. So it's really a little bit of blocking and putting things together. So we had the 3 weeks of rehearsal and we just needed to figure out how movement would work on the stage. They made a very tactile set. It was a really simple set, but all elements were tactile because there was going to be a lot of movement in darkness or semi-darkness because they were they really wanted to do the opera in total darkness at one stage. But that really wasn't going to work. But there was very dim lights. You once during the overture and when people came in, they had models of every single one of the cast members in their costumes on stage, which beforehand, anyone who was blind could go and do a tactile tour of those costumes. And as an aside, I looked at mine and I'm like, where are my boobs? Those boobs are way smaller than mine. People are going to come and look at that costume, who are blind and think I have small boobs. Um, kind of, kind of is a bit of a joke, but so they
Well,
had, sorry.
do you realize there's so many comical lines, so many sick and twisted lines that I could throw in here, but I'm just not going to throw them. Okay. I did for the record, I didn't ask that question. Okay, let's just
No,
let's just get this. No, I know. Now I'm doing comedy. Okay. Did you get the impression? Because I am a voice actor and actor as well. Did you get the impression that I was thinking about your breast size before you came into this studio? Did I ever
of
give that impression?
course.
Oh, really? Oh, really?
Everybody does, don't they?
No, no. Here
Oh,
in here in a country called Up Over, no, no, we wouldn't think about that. But I am very pleased that you should definitely sue that company, whoever created that model. You should definitely sue them and take them to court over the boob
oh,
size. Okay,
oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
absolutely lawsuit coming up. Get the
Uh,
paper, hire the attorney. Okay, you just can't do that.
oh, yeah,
Okay.
no. It,
So what I think would be more stimulating, even more stimulating than that, graphic detail, Grace King. So how'd the opera go? After you
yeah, it
got
went
done
really
being
well.
offended with, oh that's good. That's good
It was
considering you had so
so,
much complaints about the costume. Okay, good.
it
Yeah.
was so good. No, the costume was beautiful.
Oh, I didn't know that
And
you were complaining so much. I couldn't tell if it
no,
was beautiful. Oh,
no, no, no.
okay.
The costume was great. The thing about these mannequins was they were all the female mannequins were all the same mannequin. Like they just got like 10, of these female mannequins and 10 male ones. So they were all the same. It was not custom made to you. Um, so yeah, but the costumes were beautiful. They made really tactile costumes for everybody. Mine was this silk dress, and it had these lovely like gold trim and all of these flowers. And I had this they tell me it looked amazing with all the lights and everything, but it was like this plastic crown with these plastic jewels on it. But apparently it looked stunning. And so the set had a bench where Yolanta did a lot of sitting because there were two Yolantas, the woman who was the opera singer, and May. And there was a rope because we paraded in to the middle of the stage, and there was a little rope line for the center stage, so I could find that rope and move out to the position where I was doing my monologues and would be straight under the spotlight. And the first thing I did when I got out there was to describe exactly what I was wearing for anybody who could or could not see me. They did a lot of multi-sensory things. When we were in the rose garden, there was the scent of roses pumped through the theater. Um, and yes, that use of darkness and light. And the only other thing on the stage was sets of steps for people to be at different heights and different areas. Very minimalist, but everything that was there was incredibly tactile. And yeah, it went well. The opera played for 4 nights. It was, you know, very well attended. And yeah, loved it, loved it, loved it. Felt really very respected, and it was so authentic and great.
Well, that's wonderful. That's incredible. Yeah. Yeah, I've never been in an opera, but I used to be a musician, and I agree with you that being able to perform or to give a speech or just being able to have a successful experience performing, it really means the world to us as blind people because we're able to get out there and really be represented appropriately. And I think that's the overwhelming point is that this opera helped you to represent you, who you are as a person. So that's really, really incredible. Have you thought about delving into voice acting, by the way? Because that's what I
Yeah,
do.
I did a bit of it. I have done uh, a bit of voice acting. The problem with the voice acting, though, is the editing bits of voice acting. I'd be better at it now, because shamanism has corrected some of the issues that I have had with voice acting. So now, thanks to shamanism, I can do my own podcast because the sound of my voice does not break my brain. Uh, and that's really good. I can jump into Studio Recorder and just do it. Um, cut out whatever I need to do. Pretty tedious. Don't love doing it, but I can. But I'm not able to do the kind of editing that I would need to do as a voice actor. If people wanted voice acting and wanted to do the editing, all the time would be happy to do the voice acting thing some more. I did a trailer for a dice game which is no longer available called Ready to Roll Dots RPG, and I was the voice of that game on iOS. I think the trailer is still sitting up on my Star Now profile actually. Um, but yeah, that was good fun. I really enjoyed doing that. Um, yeah. So, I mean, I've done some narration for some social stories, which I've loved. And yeah, look, when I can do voice acting, when I can do any acting or singing or whatever, I'll get on into it. I love to do that.
Yeah, it's wonderful. Voice acting's a lot of fun. I typically have played the either I usually play a character that's very evil, or I usually play like an authority figure, usually with my
Yeah.
voice. Yeah. Why? What could you see my voice being used for?
Oh, that makes sense. That makes sense.
Oh, good, good, great, great. Well, cool. Well, cool. Okay. All right. Um, so, you mentioned this word shamanism, right? And then
Yeah.
you mentioned podcasting. So why don't we go down the street of your healing, your oils, your crystals, your shamanism, all that type of stuff that you like to talk
Yes,
about, and then connect that to your podcasting. So why don't you go in that direction for a bit?
I can do that. So, as I said, as I was younger, I was always into crystals and, you know, all that kind of thing. When I was younger, we didn't have the internet. We didn't have access to all the things that we do now. Um, pardon me. And even though we can't access everything, we can access a heck of a lot more than we could. So we learned how to use crystals by playing with them and look, maybe getting a little bit of information from the lady at the crystal shop or whatever, but playing with them and seeing what they thought they did and comparing notes. Uh, and you know what? Sometimes I think that's still the best way to do things. Uh, so I um, was let's see. Yeah, came here to Australia, was kind of bored one day, got onto a meetup group, and somebody put out an essential oils workshop. And I'm like, oh, I'm totally interested in essential oils. I should go to it. It's free. I'll take a taxi out there and I'll do that. And I turned up to this woman's house. I didn't tell her I was blind, but she was so lovely. And she got me into doTERRA. And I did a couple of education workshops for blind people around that, had a few groups of people get into the doTERRA thing, but the person I was working with was not this other woman that she kind of fell out of it a bit. Um, and I, was working with somebody else and she was quite pushy on me starting a business with doTERRA and getting people to sign up and buy a lot of stuff. And I'm like, that's not the point here. I just want people to have access to the information. If they buy stuff, sweet. If they sign up and start their own business or want their own wholesale account, sweet. If they just want to buy a couple of things through me, that's sweet. I don't care. I'm not interested, but they really wanted me to start this business and get an upline and have a team and do these things. And I'm like, "Oh, no, nope." So I really kind of pulled back from that. I do a bit of oil training when I can now. I do sell doTERRA stuff if anybody wants anything. If anybody really wants a wholesale account, we can set you up. But really, I don't care. Like, the oils are amazing. I love them. I use lemon essential oil every day when I was doing my cacao before I got this really good situation that I've got where it is all in a powder done for me. I was using a lot of oils in that. Um, use a lot of natural oil-based perfumes and a lot of the made-up stuff that doTERRA does. Love it. It's great. Um, but I don't want to full on sell it to anybody, not interested. Uh, so yeah, then I saw a another random Facebook post from a friend talking about a crystal club. Uh, and I called up this crystal place because I'd been talking to a friend and she said she was really into crystals. And I'm like, oh, I saw this crystal club. Do you want to go with me? Maybe I can organize a support worker to take us and do that. And so we joined this crystal club at this Crystal and Stone, and they were really lovely and inclusive. They provided us our notes for the Crystal Club so we could have them on our Braille note takers beforehand. Um, so, you know, really, really, really inclusive place. And sadly, on the 8th of September, the place is shutting down, which makes me very sad. The Crystal Club that they ran is long gone, but loved it while I was there. That got me into crystals, and then I got into I went to a sound healing and ecstatic dance thing that a friend did for their birthday. And I said to somebody, I was in a Discord server, I said, I've really thought about um, doing sound healing. I should take a course on sound healing, but I don't know how I do go with the bulls. I said, oh, you want to do a course on sound healing? I've got one. And they shared this course on sound healing, and I did it. And I learned how to use the tuning forks for sound healing. And that was life-changing. Uh, I found that doing the C and G forks for, look, 2 minutes in the morning and 2 minutes at night gave me so much more energy and ability to do things in life. And then using the weighted 128 um, megahertz uh, fork on the body. Look, I started losing weight. I started losing a lot of weight. I used to have a lot of muscle weakness in my jaw, meaning that it was very difficult for me to close my mouth when chewing. And then suddenly, a few months later, I realized that I was effortlessly doing it and could keep my mouth closed when I ate, which is really good. You could say, "Oh, that's so disgusting that you couldn't do that." But with the muscle weakness in my jaw, it wasn't a thing that I didn't want to do. It was just not a thing that I could easily do. Um, so yeah, and I learned some more different techniques using the whole scale of tuning forks. I did learn how to do the singing bowls. I found out that the singing bowl that I got and that I was trying to work with was a complete dud. It would probably cost whoever sent it in this box of random spiritual stuff about $5. Um, and like I think we finally found one person that could actually sort of kind of play that bowl. But I got another one and somebody did show me how to play the crystal bowls or uh I do have crystal bowls, but I prefer the metal um singing bowls because they're much more robust and I'm not terrified of breaking them. The Tibetan singing bowls, yes. Uh, so somebody showed me how to do the Tibetan singing bowls, and I did a class on the crystal singing bowls, which was very good fun. I've got 8 of them. They're in a corner in their bags, and I'm terrified of them breaking. Um, so yeah, there's that. But I do have them, and they do come out and get played some. Then I got a Native American flute. Oh my gosh, so amazing. I did a course on Native American flute and love that. That is such a good thing for healing because you cannot mess it up. It's got 5 notes and you can play them in any order you want and they will always sound good. And what comes out of that is incredible. I got a drum, doing a bit of learning about the drum. Enjoy playing the drum. Not great at it, but it is a great healing companion for me. Uh, and yeah, so I decided that once I'd done the sound healing, I really wanted to help other blind people find accessible healing. So I started to go on a journey, which at times has been great and at times has been really, really difficult. I finished my essential oil specialist certification. I did a breathwork course one weekend, and I had some massive sensory problems. Um, and that weekend, I'd been to like a really loud gig, and I'd stepped in some cat spew a couple of times, and my brain was just not functioning the way it was. And for the first time on that breath course, I hated the fact that I had these sensory problems. I hated the fact that my brain wasn't working. I hated myself for that. I hated that I was like that. How was I going to help anyone else if I couldn't be stable and couldn't keep my brain from breaking and thinking things that just were not true? And you know, thing is that there were other things going on behind the scenes that I didn't know about, but that my brain was picking up on, but I didn't know really on a or accept it on a conscious level what was going on. So it's Sunday morning and I've gotten up from a few hours of sleep and I'm sitting in, uh, my bathroom and I'm going, God, what is the next step? What do I do? I need something else. And I can't go on the way I am. And not to say that anybody with any kind of sensory processing issues is bad or wrong or any of that. Was really about me. And honestly, I do think that having the issues that I did was kind of a gift at the time. It saved me from a lot of really nasty situations and made me see things very differently, and I wouldn't have been without it. Um, but at that time, I'm like, what do I do? And a spirit guide that I have worked with since I was like 13 turned up and she said, well, you've done these shamanism classes and journeys and you've always loved journeying. Go do shamanism. I said, well, where? Well, let's go Google. Let's go find the resource. So I went and went to my computer early in the morning and I Googled affordable shamanism classes. And I found a massive school, and I'm like, that's not right. Also, that's not affordable. Like $9,000. No, no, no. Um, and then I went and found this Create Your Dreams Academy, and they do classes of 2 to 6 people, and they had a payment plan, and it'd be a stretch, but if doing the payment plan, possibly I could I could afford it. It was 200 US dollars a month for a year. And I'm like, yeah, yeah, I could probably it'll be difficult, but it may be worth it. So I reached out to this woman who ran Create Your Dreams, Chris, and she's so good. She's like grandma, um, down to earth, hilarious, wise grandma. And I started the shamanism class, completely forgetting, um, the whole exact reason of what I was trying to get rid of for like a year. I've just thought I really wanted the next step of what I was doing. I really wanted to move on with my journey and I wanted healing. just absolutely and completely discarded the whole issues I was having with the sensory processing and trying to get my brain to be a stable place so that I could, not curl up into a ball for, 12 hours at a time randomly. Um, and I did this course in the first uh, number of classes I did. I then went to a music camp and I found that I could suddenly do things that I couldn't do before. I was able to participate in a way in a group mobility class, which is not something I really would have been able to do. I was able to follow people without anxiety and without getting really, really, really exhausted. And that's how it was for a week. Um, I was able to follow people around and not do too much sight guiding, which is not usually what I do in normal life. But it was really interesting to be able to do that. And then I got on the plane. The plane was delayed. 5-hour plane ride home. Get home. My partner has been gone. He's away on a camp or something. I think it was camp. Walk in. It's 11:30 at night. I am exhausted. And what do? Step in a big cold pile of cat spew. And I'm like, oh well. I went and got some toilet paper, cleaned it up, washed my foot off, went to bed. My brain didn't break, and normally it would have absolutely just it would have been a bad thing. But no, went to bed. Oh, everything's fine. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's incredible. And these experiences kept happening, going to a theater show and just they had a horrible sound system and it was just cutting in and out and awful. And I'm sitting there and it's really annoying, but that's all it is. And I'm like, my God, is that how people experience the world? It's just really annoying. My brain is not going to break, and I'm not going to think that everybody hates me or, you know, attribute some weird meaning to something or think that, I've gotten McDonald's and I've got a cheeseburger and I look at the cheeseburger and someone's taken a bite out of that cheeseburger and I'm not actually quite sure if it was me that actually took a bite out of my cheeseburger and just forgot about it 30 seconds ago, or if somebody has taken a bite out of my McDonald's cheeseburger. I mean, that was the total weirdness that would happen when I had these sensory issues. But it was gone. Um, I mean, I may still have one uh, bit of a trigger, and I don't know if I do. I haven't gone and tested it and don't plan to. I'm sure it'll turn up at some stage and we'll find out. But to have all of the issues with food screwing up my brain, I cannot like things, but you know, that's different than I have some butter and the world starts to spin. Um, Not having so many issues with textures, being able to sit through a horrible community theater play where the sound is just screwing up and not wanting to actually tear my hair out. Um, all that kind of thing. It was an incredible experience. And, you know, the shamanic illumination process is so cool. It's not like anything that is done in any other way. So with shamanic illumination, we know that, and this is said in hypnotherapy as well, which I've studied, and NLP, 15% of your mind is the conscious mind. The other 85% of your mind is your subconscious mind. And your subconscious mind is very good at picking up patterns. If you had a girl in a red dress hurt you, you will subconsciously possibly think that all girls with red dresses are meanies. Um, very, very simplistic example. And, or even it may stretch out to all girls are meanies. And the subconscious carries these patterns and creates, the things simplistically, all girls in red dresses are meanies or something like that. But it can also create, negative patterns like low self-worth, fear of failure, fear of success, um, anxiety around specific things, if you've had lots of bad experiences riding the bus, you may have a heavy energy pattern of um, fear, anxiety around buses, and it may be quite life limiting. The patterns that I worked on in the illumination process had nothing to do with sensory processing disorder, but it must have been attached to, you know, some or one of those patterns and unstuck itself somehow. But anyway, so the illumination process looks at that negative pattern and we look at the heavy emotions linked to that negative pattern. And we have you drop into that heavy emotion and we do some cleaning of the chakras. We find where that emotion is in your body, basically, and we clear it out. Um, and you sit there and you focus on that emotion if you can, and you find that that emotion gets smaller and smaller until it's gone. And you don't have to talk about any of the experiences that are connected to that emotion, but I find it better. I find it much more useful for me when I'm doing my illumination if I do. Um, hold on, alarm going off. But yeah, that's up to the individual. And then after, there might be some situational chords or core energetic chords to people that may need to be cut. There is soul retrieval that can go on. There's a process called mythic mapping. If you are an affirmations person, we can craft custom affirmations for you. There's journeying that we can lead you on after the illumination, after we fill you all up with nice, good energy and remove that pattern. We will often do work to kind of install new patterns or um, retrieve soul parts or any of that kind of thing. It's a wonderful, beautiful, totally customizable process that I enjoy working with people on. And it's brought me a lot of healing. Uh, I'm learning now that it is wonderful, but there are other modalities that can make it even better and make me even better. So I've studied NLP and have been doing some anchoring, some work on anchors, which has been amazing. But yeah, when I did the shamanism work, I was coming to the end of it, and I thought I should really figure out a way of putting out the knowledge that I have about spiritual practices and really accessible spiritual practices to other people. So I I came to a point where I figured I should do that, try to figure out how I could do that. I didn't want to go on YouTube because I didn't want to be on video. I didn't want to ha do anything via a schedule because life was busy. And, I just didn't know when I'd be able to get to doing the things I wanted to do. So I came up with the Sensory Spirit podcast. Um, and that came up because somebody made an accessible tarot assistant. And I said, I should really review this. And I was on talking to people about this tarot assistant on their Discord server. And the guy's like, I really wish someone would do a podcast or YouTube showing how a blind person actually uses this. And I'm like, okay, okay, we'll do it. And I started the Sensory Spirit podcast. Did this demo on accessible tarot, and it was awesome. Um, People really enjoyed it. So I kept going, talking about breath work, some stuff about blind people in our hands, just all sorts of things, all sorts of different little tools and techniques that I've picked up and wanted to share with people. Um, and I last week I did this anchoring work, and I'm like, you know what? I've got a whole bunch of anxiety around uh, social media and um, checking it and drama on, social media and all this stuff. I've had some not great experiences in the past, and it's holding me back. And I created a safety anchor through NLP and has been helping me to clear some of that. Uh, and enough of it to be able to go ahead and start a WhatsApp community for people who are listening to my podcast. And that's been great. We've got all sorts of people who really want to talk about spirituality, tarot. We've talked about animal guides, the fairy folk, mermaids, dragons, sound healing. People are putting up book recommendations. And talking about, anxiety and wellness and making sure to get enough sunlight. Just so many good things have come out of this community that has stemmed from the podcast. I put up a Mastodon presence. Um, yeah, that's that's what I've done, and I'm just so glad to have the community that we have, and it's open to, whoever is really interested in spirituality and the podcast, you can listen to some tips and take what you want and leave what you don't. Everything is not for everyone. The community is not for everyone, but if it's for you, then we'll be happy to have you. Um, Come and join the community. Come interact. I want to maybe do some Zoom socials as well, possibly, and just have a really safe, non-judgmental place for people to come and talk about spirituality, find community, and look at healing. Upcoming for me, I'm going to start a Reiki class, and I'm going to finally learn Reiki, which is something I've wanted to do forever. And I did a podcast on that last week with the blind person that is teaching that Reiki class. I'm going to try and keep the podcast going and be part of this community, see where it goes, see what else I can do to provide, blind people healing and uplift us, all of those who want to be uplifted, see what we can do about this judgment and fear going on.
It sounds like you are really connected with all these things, and that was an incredible answer when all I asked you was, what are those things? And then you went down that beautiful answer. That was great. Absolutely. Um, so yeah, it sounds like you're very, very connected in all of this. So, what do you suppose, as someone who has clearly, you've studied trauma a lot, you've thought about these things on many different levels and in many different ways. So, I think it's very ironic, and I think you'll have a very good answer. It's ironic that we as a community of people, whether we're blind or not, it's ironic that we have had that we say that there's so much trauma, and in many cases there is. Excuse me. Yet, our times are quite good. In other words, we're living in quite a good time period. We have a lot of advancements in technology and healthcare, and there are some serious diseases today, but there are fewer diseases than there were, say, even 4 or 5 or 600 years ago. Why do you suppose, Grace, that so many people need to be healed? And I'm not questioning the fact that they do. I'm just wondering, really, what have you found to be exactly going on with our society that is causing such a need for this healing to be done? What do you really think?
What do I think? I think it's a great time to be blind. With all of the, I've always said in a lot of interviews I've done, there's never been a better time to be blind. Um, And because of what you've said, that all of the technology that we have access to, all of the things that we can now do. Uh, and I think that people are kind of awakening. We've been so focused on, getting needs met, and, the physical based needs are mostly, in many ways met. So people are waking up. And, there's some books on this, A Journey of Souls, and it talks about, how we're all in life to heal and evolve. Life is a healing journey, and we all need healing so that we can raise our vibrations from where we are and move on to the next level. It's a journey. It's not a cure for, you know, a cure. You break your arm and you get in a cast and it's fixed, it's cured. Healing is um, really going through and dealing with issues that you might have had, whatever they might be, and evolving from them, taking the lessons and the things that we've learned and integrating them, um, and moving beyond whatever it is that is holding us back.
Yeah, that's excellent. So on your podcast, do you mostly just do sort of like monologue style where you just talk about a topic and research a topic in these various healing spiritual energy things? Do you basically talk yourself in monologue style, or do you interview other experts in the field, or what exactly do you do on the podcast?
That depends on the day. I did do an interview. The last one was probably my first interview. I do collaborations with people. I've had some guest people record podcasts, and one guest person record a podcast, and I put it up for them. It was a class on removing blocks that they wanted to do. So, and then I did a live rune reading class for them. By the way, I love the Norse runes and love doing readings and healings with them as well. Very tactile system, much better in than tarot in that way, and so portable. They can go in my purse and no need to shuffle. You just shake that bag and off you go. In my community and on the Mastodon, I do a daily crystal and rune pull, and I do a little bit of interpretation of that, which is fun and good. But yeah, so I do that. I do talk about different products that are useful for people who are blind, like a smudge bowl, so that you can actually use your smudge sticks without lighting yourself on fire. I come up, when I find interesting practices, either through journeying myself, um, or, see something interesting that I think people could use, I will talk about them. Um, I will, do like a whole topic on, say one on, say, breath work. I've done one on mindful wearables. I'll get on to the apps that I'm talking about and demonstrate them, letting people hear what they're actually going to hear if they work with the products available that I'm talking about. So I'll go through Tarot Assistant and show people how it works. I'll go through the Tarot and Oracle decks with voiceover on and show people how it works. So there's demos, there's collaborations, there's interviews, there's just me talking about different accessible things, um, all manner of stuff.
Right, absolutely. That's really, really good. Yeah, yeah. I think we'll definitely have a lot of people in Aaron's opinion who are very interested in these types of things.
Yeah.
So one
Well,
thing that I think about off and on, and I'm sure you have a very good answer, and this will be one of basically my second to last question.
mhm.
So, this universe thing, Grace King, you've spent a lot of time thinking about the universe and your place and our place within the universal system, obviously. We are, in the words of another guest who was on this show, we are, in fact, simply beings of light, as it's oftentimes said. which is a very beautiful way of understanding how we fit into the fabric of the universe. But maybe if you wouldn't mind, and in just a couple sentences, what do you suppose is the future of the universe? Will we, have you contemplated, given any thought or done any research to where the universe will end? And what is your opinion of what is in store as far as the universe goes?
Look, I think that that is up to, the universe itself, really. There are
It's
many
a good
people
answer.
that say that we will have an awakening and evolve. And I hope that's true. And that, this and that may or may not happen. When I was younger, really, mom used to leave the Christian radio station on for nice Christian music. But after like 9 o'clock, nice Christian music stopped, and a very interesting preachers would come on with very interesting thoughts about the world and how it would end, and they would gleefully tell us how the world would end. And I actually had a lot of anxiety about that as an 8, 9-year-old child. And, every time a train would come by my house, I'd think that the world was going to end and I had trouble with sleep. And funnily enough, it's actually because of this that I got into crystals. A friend gave me my first crystal randomly. It was a hematite. And I found that if I held that crystal, um, when trying to sleep, all of that would go away and
Hmm,
lessen, and it would stop me
interesting.
from worrying about things I couldn't control.
Well, it's a beautiful answer. So what we need to do is stop worrying about the things we can't control,
Yeah.
and to some extent, let the universe do what the universe will do. Let the great being, the force, the God, the whomever, uh, control the fate.
Yeah, we'll find out what happens, and all we can do is be the best people that we can be and continue on our healing journeys and find
Yeah,
what we're meant to do in the universe.
I completely agree. That's why, as a teacher and podcaster, I only give my best. So that way, at least I can say I did my best. I did everything I can. Did everything I could. Wow. Well, wonderful, Grace. Well, with your podcast, do you have a lot of downloads from all four corners of the universe and galaxy, as I say? Do you have all the continents tuning into your podcast?
I guess so. I don't really worry about stats. I've
Okay.
had
Well, I didn't
pro
ask you if you're worried about it. I just said, have you, do you look at it? It's kind of fun to look at it, once every couple of weeks, just to know where your message is landing. It's kind of interesting, you know?
Yeah, I don't know how. I've seen that I'm up to about 300 plays over 6 months, and I'm like, that's good. People are listening. I hear from some people in Europe and Australia and America that have listened, but always happy to hear from more people.
Absolutely. Well, we'll definitely see what we can do. We'll definitely put your podcast in my group, and I have a WhatsApp
Yeah.
group, a private one for the guests that you'll be in,
Oh, cool.
and then one for a public group on Facebook, and then there's a Facebook page. So we'll definitely get you some downloads, and you'll
Yeah.
definitely get to connect with some people who have shared a lot of your experiences. But all wonderful, Grace. Very interesting. I think you're very connected, and I think you're doing a great job overcoming. And I think what it comes down to is you're healing. We never are. We can never be 100% better, but I think you're well on your way to healing, and you're living clearly a beautiful life there in Perth, in Australia, and all all is great. So, Grace, if you can ask me Aaron's opinion, or Aaron Richmond, whichever way you look at it, if you can ask me only one more question to really make me sweat to see if I'm worth my salt as a podcaster, what do you want to ask?
What do I want to ask? So, I don't know if you are um, into any of the spirituality at all. But if you are, what is your favorite spiritual practice that you subscribe to?
Sure. Well, okay. I'm a Jewish guy. I might not be as practicing of all of your spiritual things that you do, but that's okay.
Of course it is.
Yeah, well, good. But one of the things, I mean, it's not really a practice, but I certainly am interested. I do watch a lot of scientific videos about the universe and the engineering of the universe. So I know it's not a spiritual practice, but I do ponder the universe
Yeah.
from a philosophical perspective. Understanding, the different scientific theories. Now I know those are the opposite in many cases of the spiritual ones, but I do look at the universe to some degree from a perception of spirituality, but overall perception of beautiful engineering, that whomever engineered the universe did a great job. Because if you look at the universe from a perspective of an engineer, it's an engineering masterpiece. When you stop and think about that, the stars, the planets, the alignment, the equations that link the universe, the seasons, the moon pulling on the earth to make the waves in the ocean, there's a lot of beauty in that. At least I think so. So yeah, what do you think about that answer?
Yeah, absolutely. You know what? I don't think that learning is not a spiritual practice. Learning can be um, definitely a spiritual practice all in itself.
For sure, for sure. And you never stop learning when you're a podcaster, getting different perspectives and hearing different stories. Yeah, for sure, for sure. Well, very good. Well, so if someone wants to get in touch with Grace, how do they do that? And how do they get connected with your podcast?
Okay, so if you want me, you can email me at sensoryspirit@gking.io. You can find my podcast by typing in Sensory Spirit on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. It's there as well. You can come to the Facebook page, facebook.com/r sensory spirit, which will connect you to the WhatsApp community. If you have any trouble figuring that out, get in touch with me. I'll definitely help you with that. I have a Mastodon instance that is sensory spirit at mastodon.social. I have we have a Discord server that nobody uses, but if you want to use it, um, we're there. And you can find the link to that on the podcast page or on the Facebook page. So if you go to an episode, you'll see the Discord link. The Mastodon and the WhatsApp are only on the last two episodes. So that is there. That's where you can find me. Um, it's all of those places. Get in touch if you want to get in touch. Have a listen to the podcast. See what you think. Not everything is for everybody. That's okay. But if you want to have a chat with like-minded people, join the community, interact on Facebook, Mastodon, more Mastodon than Facebook because Facebook is I'm just having trouble with it. Getting any reach. Pop onto Discord if you want. Looking to have a Zoom meeting at some stage for everybody to get on and have a little chat because that would be good fun. And yeah, just come and join us if you feel that that's something you want to do. Look very forward to connecting with anyone who wants to.
Wonderful. Great pleasure to have you on the show today, Grace. You did a great job, absolutely. And we will be in touch very soon, right over here on Messenger, to get you set up with my various groups and to help you to
Okay.
keep expanding your knowledge all across the universe and galaxy. So thank you, Grace. And
Thank
keep
you.
living a healthy and spiritual and happy life over there in Australia. You're doing great. So we'll be back next time. And of course, Grace, do you know how I end an episode of Aaron's Opinion?
No.
That's totally fine. We say thank you for joining us. We'll be back soon. And of course, help one person today, help 1 million people tomorrow.
I
If
like
you're
that
still on
end tag.
YouTube, well, good. Thank you. That's the ending I've been using for 4 years. Glad you like it.
Cool.
Like the video, comment below, and tickle the bell notification to know when we go live next on YouTube. All right, everybody. Great conversation today. Really enjoyed that. And of course, Grace, thank you so much for joining us again because we have to repeat it over on the YouTube stream. So thank you so much. We will be back soon and we'll be in touch over on the Messenger very soon, tomorrow or something like that. Anyway, take care, Grace, and be well over there in Australia and keep podcasting and keep doing all the great stuff you do. So take
Thank
care.
you.
Be well. Always welcome here. All right, everybody. Take care.